Okay, so we're in the binomial theorem topic and we're having a look at the binomial coefficient formula here. We've come across the idea of n choose r, or combinations. And we've come across the idea of the factorial operation. So this is a way in which they're connected. Now to calculate any numerical combination, as we've seen earlier, we can just use our calculator. So it's not a necessary thing when we're just dealing with numbers. It has more use when we have algebraic terms perhaps to manipulate. But it's interesting to see how, again, it's another way of calculating our combinations. So in the example A here, we've got 5 choose 2. So one of the ways we can calculate that value is by substituting in, we've got n factorial over r factorial times n minus r factorial. So in this case, n is 5 and r is 2. So we can substitute that in as meaning 5 factorial divided by 2 factorial, and n minus r, 5 minus 2 is 3 times 3 factorial. Now we could work these out individually. I'll do that this time around. So 5 factorial, hopefully we can know that 5 times 4 times 3 times 3 times 1 is 120, divided by 2 factorial is 2 times 3 factorial is 6, which gives us 120 divided by 12, which is 10. So we can say that 5 choose 2 has a value of 10. It's very straightforward. So we've got 9 choose 6 is the second one. So n is 9, r is 6. So substituting that into the formula gives us 9 factorial divided by 6 factorial multiplied by n minus r. 9 subtract 6 is 3 factorial. Now it's an interesting thing if you don't want to go as far as working out 9 factorial. We can actually use the idea of simplifying factorial operations by saying that 9 factorial is 9 times 8 times 7 times 6 factorial divided by 6 factorial times 3 factorial. We can cancel them out, and that would leave us with the calculation of 9 times 8 is 72 multiplied by 7. 72 times 7 is 490 plus 14. What would that be? 504 divided by 3 factorial is 6, and 504 divided by 6 is 84. So in some ways, some of the time you would be required to use a calculator if the factorials were kind of large, in which case you'd think, well, what's the point in using the formula when I can just press the NCR button on my calculator, and you'd be absolutely right. But it's interesting to see the connection between the two, and the simplifying factorials is a kind of neat thing to be able to do, but also when we start to introduce algebra at a later date, then it kind of makes a bit more sense to deconstruct the n choose r into the binomial coefficient formula. Okay, on you go and practice that.